Hi, welcome to my video. My name is Bill Stone. I've been doing leaded glass since the 1970s. Today we're going to talk about a project for building a sun catcher. The sun catcher we're going to build today uses a depression plate in the center. They were very popular during the Depression. There's all kinds of them, all kinds of different colors. You can find them at the antique stores, swap meets, secondhand stores, and even in some neighborhood stores. So anyway, this is the project right here we're going to build. It's again in the same principle as the other two videos we did. This one here is again for beginners. It's a little more difficult. And if you're interested in the other videos, the one is called Leaded Glass Sun Catchers for Beginners. And in it's a little more detailed than this one because it talks about tools and stretching the cane and some of the other terms that we're going to work with. But in this one, we're going to move through a little bit quicker. So hope you'll take a look at it and enjoy it. Thanks for watching. Okay, we're going to get ready to build this next sun catcher. The first one, if you want to look at it, it's called Leaded Glass Sun Catcher for Beginners, and you can look at the video on that. It has a lot more information on it than this one's going to have. This one's going to be a little bit more difficult, and probably the one tool you may need on this one that you didn't need on the other ones, where you may need a grinder, because when we cut these pieces of glass here, sometimes they have to be ground to fit exactly where you want to go. By looking at the pattern here, you're going to say, well, this looks kind of weird. It's just got a big hole in the middle of it. Well, what we're going to do, we're going to take a plate here. This is from the Depression era. You can find these at antique stores, swap meets, all over. There's all kinds of them. There's pink ones, green ones, gold ones, all kinds of different ones with all kinds of different shapes in the middle of them here. So to make this, the first thing we're going to have to do is we're going to have to create a corner here. And so what we're going to do, we're going to take this and we're going to set it upside down. And we've drawn the plan out already. And by the way, if you decide to make one like this, you can make any kind of plan you want. You can make more borders on it. You can do anything you want to with it. This is just a real simple one to get going here. So we're going to set this in here. And we're going to take our pins that we talked about before, and we're just going to pin it here just a little bit so it doesn't move around. Just like this. Just to hold it in place here. And then we're going to create a pattern to create this part right here. And I've already cut one out here. It looks like this. So this is the pattern, and it's going to fit right in this area right here. It's going to create the cut that we need to make. So we need to make a piece of cut like this. This is an inner cut here. This is one of the more difficult cuts to make, although this one's fairly shallow. The real steep ones or real small ones are extremely hard to cut. I'll show you a little trick on how to cut those. But anyway, so keep that in mind. So we're going to keep this. This is going to go right in here, and we're going to cut 4 of these. So I'll drop away for a minute and bring the cutting board over here and move this out of the way, and we'll cut this piece right here. All 4 of these are going to be this same size. So you just need to have one pattern. You don't need to make a whole bunch of them. So we'll drop this off right now, and we'll come back in the next video and we'll go ahead and show you how to cut this. Okay, so we're back. We're going to get ready to cut our corner pieces. This is our pattern right here. So we need 4 of these. They're all exactly the same. So we need to know how long or how wide to make our corner pieces. So we're going to take our ruler and we're going to take and measure this. It comes out to be 4 1/16 of an inch, which is fine. That'll work out good. So we need to cut a piece of glass. We're going to use this glue chip right here. This is a nice textured glass. Gives a nice effect outside in the sun. So I've got it, the grain marked up and down. Glue chip doesn't really have a real grain to it, but it's nice if you're going to do it and you got an opportunity to mark it and make them all go the same way. You do see a little bit of a pattern change, but not much. So I'm going to set that against my backstop here. It's 4 inches, so we're going to do a combination of our 1-inch ruler, our 3-inch ruler for 4 inches, and then remember our glass cutter here is going to add a 1/16 to it, so that'll make it come out to exactly what we want. So we just push this all in here, make sure it's up tight, not a lot of pressure. Just make a nice straight score. You can put your fingers in here and pop your glass away. Set your spare glass away. We're going to end up cutting another strip like this to make 4 of these. Set this in here, and since it is square, we're going to put this right back in here. Make sure it's up against this tight. Put that right in there. And we're going to go ahead and we'll cut this one. That gives us one of them, and we'll take this other one while we've got it here, and we'll make up 2, so we'll be halfway done. We need 4. Always tap it in to make sure it's all the way to the back there so you don't have a problem with one coming out too short. Now this one here, I can snap this with my hand. It's close. If you're concerned that it may be too close and you're afraid you might cut yourself, take your running pliers, put them right on the score line right there. Come down here so you can see it. Right there, and just give it a little pressure and go ahead and snap it. So that's a couple of our corner pieces right there. Now, we're going to take our pattern piece now and we're going to adhere it to the glass. Now, there's a couple or several ways to do that. One, you can put pattern tape on it, but we're just going to use this for a real quick demonstration. So we're going to take a glue stick here. Looks like this. You're probably familiar with these. And we're just going to take and put some glue on it. Just like that. And we're going to stick it right on here. Just like that. Then we're going to turn it this way here. We're going to start up at the top. We're just going to make a nice score line on it. Here again, we don't have to push real hard. Come on around with it. Take our pattern off. If you can see the score line or not, it starts here and goes right on around here. There's a couple of ways to do this. One is you could take and you could cut what they call eyelashes, several little cuts into here, because this is an inside corner. This is one of the harder ones to cut. You can use a tapping method underneath here to tap that out. And since this has a fairly good size corner here, you might even be able to put your running pliers in here. So we'll do the tapping method first, and then we'll come back and try the running pliers, see what happens there. The running pliers are done, or the tapping is done with an old-fashioned Fletcher glass cutter. Has a ball on the end of it. It has a couple of places for your fingers to get a little rocking motion. And you're going to tap right underneath where the score line is, and you're going to see the glass start to fracture. So we'll get this where we can see it here. And it drops right out. So you have a minimal amount of touch-up to do with that. So that's one of them. So let's try the running pliers and see if they'll work. They might fracture the glass, but we'll give it a try and let's see what happens here. So we'll put a little more glue stick on here. Stick our pattern piece on here again. Put that up against it. Take our glass cutter. Follow right around our pattern. Pull it apart. So let's see if this is going to work. We're going to take the right against here. And we're going to take our running pliers and we're going to go right against in here like this. We're just going to apply a little pressure to it. And I heard it crack just a little bit. Now I'm going to come over here on this side and I'm going to do the same thing, a little pressure. And there we tucked it right out. This gives you a nice clean cut right here. You can see it's a little bit cleaner than the tapping method. So either one works great. If the legs here are thick enough, this is like almost 3/4 of an inch. If they're thick enough, you can use your running pliers pretty good if this is shallow. But if this is a real sharp curve, you're not going to be able to get that out of there without cutting several eyelashes and then taking your grazing pliers and pick it out. So This is our piece right here. It's going to be, we'll just take and we'll mark that number 1, and we'll go ahead and get ready to put our project together. So this is, all right, back. I just touched up really lightly with the grinder. I don't know if you can see it here. We'll see where how the areas that it's kind of sanded down is where the grinder hit it. You can see here there's a couple little spots here that the grinder didn't get because it's a little higher or lower. So anyway, this is our piece that we just cut out. So we'll go back and get our plate. We're going to insert it right here. And we're going to set this right in here, just like that. So that fits perfect. So that we don't run the video real long, I'm going to drop away again. I'll go ahead and cut 2, 3, and 4. And then we'll come back. We'll stick them all in there, just give them a quick sizing. And then we'll come back and we'll go ahead and start to put the lead in it. Okay, I got 2, 3, and 4 cut. I grab them a light grinding on the edge. As I set them in here, you can see that they're going to line up just fine. We've got a little gap here at all these 4 corners for our lead to slide in. So the next little video clip we're going to come back is we're going to wrap this up in lead came, like we talked about. The came we're going to use is 7/32 across the crown. It's this one right here. This is the crown area across the top. It's a rounded crown. It has a heart in the middle here, which is this area right here. That's a 32nd of an inch. And then it has about a 1/16 of an inch channel lip on it right here. So that's where the glass will fit into as we start to make this. So this is not real tricky to lead, but the first one we're going to work with, which is a little bit tricky, is we're going to put lead around our circle here. And the way I find out how long to make that piece of lead is I just put a little mark right here, because this is where the lead will end up here. I put a little mark right there. I lay it in the channel of my lead, and I just roll it out real slow until I get to when the mark comes back around, and I cut it about a ½ inch longer than that. Then I'll wrap it together. So anyway, I'll go ahead and cut one when we get ready to go, and we'll mark those. You notice I've numbered these pieces. The reason for that is that even though you cut them as close as possible to all the same, there may be a slight variable in it. And so you want to kind of keep track of where you're at here. Theoretically, they're supposed to be all exactly the same, but since you're hand cutting them free by hand, there's always a slight variation in them. So don't let that throw you off. Your came, because of the depth of the channel here, the 1/16 of an inch, does give you a little bit of room. If you got a little area that's not quite as straight or smooth as you like, it does hide some of that. You want to keep a close eye on it, though. You don't want your glass to be open and the came not covering any area. So we'll be careful to watch that as we get ready to go. Okay, we'll come back and we're going to get ready to wrap this in some lead. Okay, so we're back here. So now we're gonna start to lead this in, and when we get ready to lead this in, we're going to wrap this in one continuous piece around here, and we're going to make it end at one of our solder joints here. So where the ends butt together, it'll be hidden underneath the solder joint, and you'll never see wherever the joint is. If you're concerned you don't want to try to do one all the way around, you can go from this point maybe around and do halfway, stop at the joint, and then go around and do this other half if you want to. And if you also notice, there's no side guides here. There's no frame or anything on this. This is a little system I like to use. I call it cut and stack, where we're going to start in the middle and we're just going to build out. So halfway out here, if you decide, hey, maybe I'm going to do a ½ inch border here and I'm going to go out and add another border out on top here or something like that, it's not too late. You can just keep building out until you get whatever you're looking for. But for this demonstration, for to make it simple, we're going to keep to our drawing here. The drawing lines, as we said before in the other videos, because we are building out, you may start to cover up some of your lines, but don't worry, because we don't really care what the finished size measured, because it doesn't fit anywhere. We're just going to hang it from here with a chain, so we don't have to worry about that. So I'm going to try to show you how we do this. So I cut my lead. This is it right here. For this particular plate, it came out to be 21½ inches long. And so what I'm going to do, I'm going to take and I'm going to hold this right here, and I'm going to take it right on the edge of the glass. And I'm going to just take and pull it down, around, and then I'm going to make it line right up like that. See how close that is right there? And when you're taking to trim it that, you want to make sure that you trim it real slow at a time until it fits in perfect. So now we're going to set it down here again, upside down. We're going to set it on our pattern, and we're going to put that cut mark right there. We're going to take some stick pins here, and we're going to stick them in here like this to hold this. Going to leave this area here open. Just like that. And then we're going to take our first piece of our circle. Here again, because this plate's upside down, all the pretty side of the glass is going to be upside down. So it's going to go in like this. This piece here, if we've done it right, will fit right in here. Okay, we're back. We got this put in here, and we got the first piece in here. So now we're going to have to finish this off, and then we'll take and lead up the rest of this. So let's go up here, and we'll take our number 3, which is going to go right here. Here again, the pretty side of the glass will be down because we're building it all upside down, because otherwise we won't be able to use this dish. So this one here is going to fit right in here. And what you're looking for here is when this comes together, you want this point to be right here, so it'll be good and square. And our HCam will run in here. I've already cut a couple little pieces, so we can just take and put one right in here, just like that. Then we're going to take our HCam here. Remember, this is the one we're using to help support our glass. And the reason you want to do this is because you don't want to put your push pins right against the glass, because it will chip the glass, and it'll make a mess out of your project. And you're going to, just about the time you get almost all together, all of a sudden you'll notice you got a big chip in your glass, and it will ruin the whole effect. So normally those are things you don't see until it's almost all together, and then you say, boy, I wish I would have caught that sooner. Okay, over here we're going to do the same thing. Got to take a small piece of HCam, we're going to put it in here. If you look real close, right here is where our joint is from the glass, from the lead going around. I want it right here at the seam, because when I put this piece of HCam across there, when I solder it, it'll hide that, and you won't see it whatsoever. So here's our number 2 piece right here. I'm going to take that out. Just take and slide it right around here. Make sure it goes in here straight. Don't let that tip over on you. Okay, right like that. Check your point right here. You want it right on the point. Okay. Take your HCam here again. Hold it with your pins. By doing this, it holds it nice and tight up against the plate that you're working with, and you won't end up with any real big gaps, so you won't have an issue when you get ready to put it together. Okay, this last piece here is going to go in here, number 4. Here's our number 4. It's going to sit down in here. Cut and stack idea. Here again, we have no real pattern other than this one here that we made to go around the corner. So this created another square inside here. And as I said earlier, if you get to this point and you say, well, I'm going to put a 1/2-inch border here, and then I'm going to put another piece of glue chip around, and I'm going to come out here with my final border. You can go ahead and do that. There's no problem, and you can just keep adding on to it. The only restriction to how big you build it is where you start down here. Obviously, you got enough room here maybe for another 3/4 of an inch before you run out of your work table. So you would start that up further. The glass we're going to use for around the border is this one here. It's kind of a pinkish swirl with a little green in it. And this one here is a wispy green. These are going to go in the corners. So we'll get ready to cut those after we get this lead back in here. Now, the really easy way we're going to do this is we're going to cut some HCam. We're going to run one from this point here out to here, and we're going to let it extend about 1/8 of an inch over. Then we're going to run one from here out to here, 1/8 of an inch over. Then we're going to run one from here to here, 1/8 of an inch over, and then we're going to run one down here. So we'll get some HCam in. If you don't want to waste any HCam, just take your ruler here and measure it. And it says we're going to need 4 pieces, right around 9 1/4 inches. So we'll just take our HCam here. Got a piece right here. We'll use our lead shears here, and we're going to cut it off straight. Take and line up our ruler here at 9 1/4. I'm going to make it 9 3/8 just to give us plenty of room. I'm going to take and cut us a piece. Then I'm going to come over here and I'm going to cut this again, cut off the pointed part. Take and line this up right here. Take and cut that right there. So we need 2 more of these. And this will make our HCam to close off our square around our round dish. Okay, so if you're watching what we're doing, each time we cut it, the curved side of the shears creates a point, so you have to go flat side to flat side to make this come out the way you want it. Okay, so we've got our 4 HCam right here. Okay, so the first thing we're going to do is we're going to set one in here. We're going to take this pin out, and we're going to set this right in here. And we're going to come down. Remember, we're going to allow room for the HCam that's going to run this way. So we're going to take and we're going to set our pin in here, push it up against there. I'm going to go right up to where our joint is right there, and then I'm going to push that into there. Okay, then we're going to come down to this one. We're going to do the same thing. Pull this away. Take our piece here. Here again, we're going to run it. If you see a little tick mark or something like on your lead there, turn it over on that side to kind of, well, in this case, we'll leave it the way it was because the good side's actually down in this case. If you're making it right side up, kind of turn that away. Just a little imperfection, or I've hit it with something. Here again, come right up against where your joint is. And check right here. You want a nice tight joint right here. Stick that right there. Now we're going to come over here and we're going to do the same thing here. We're going to take our HCam, stick it in here just like that. Push it down up against our joint again. And then we'll come down to the end right here, put it in there. Here again, you notice we've got this really close right here, so when we solder this, it's going to hide anything that where that joint came together. When you make this joint on this round one, try to get it as tight as you can there because you don't want a whole bunch of solder stuck in there. So try to get that as nice as you can get it. And the way you get it to be really close is to take little tiny cuts when you're putting this piece on, so that it will come around and just line up right where you want it. So that'll make it nice. Okay, so this is the last piece of our HCam. Goes in here. Here again, one right where our joint's at. And one right down here at the end. So that gives us is all locked in now. So now we're going to work on our border pieces here. So I'll go offline and cut some 1-inch strips here, and then we'll come on and we'll cut them to length and we'll put them in here and we'll go from there. We're going to put our hangers right here. So it'll have a chain that goes off here. I usually like to use 2 hangers. Could put one right here at this point. I think the 2 are better because it holds it flatter when you hang it out in the patio and so forth. If you put one right here, it'll have a tendency to really twist a whole lot. And so that's not the greatest thing to have happen when it's kind of moving around. So anyway, we'll go off camera here. We're going to cut some 1-inch strips. We'll make them all go in the same direction, and we'll cut our wispy glass to go in here, and then we'll go ahead and come back and we'll finish up putting this together. All right, we're going to get ready to put the border in here right now. So I've just put a little piece of glass in here. This is one of our border pieces here. I put it in here right now to act as a support for this right here, because we're going to build right down here for right now. And so I moved my cutting board over here just a little bit so we can see how we're going to cut these. The particular piece of glass I picked is not quite long enough to make a whole run here, so we're going to mix these colors all up. Normally I would like to have left them all in the same row, but since the piece of glass that I chose isn't quite long enough, we'll just cut them in and put them in here at random, and the outcome will be just fine. So anyway, we're going to take one of our pieces here. This is the pretty side. We're going to make it go down, and we're going to just take and we're going to stick this in here like this. The reason this is critical that we have this at the right length is when we come to this intersection here, I want to make this exactly the same here. So when we solder this, it'll be a perfect 45 right there. You won't have a big jagged movement. Be sure to get it in there up against your HCam. And I pulled it down here just a little bit. And the reason I did that, otherwise this is opaque. I can't see where I want to cut this. So I'm going to mark it right here. And then I'm going to come over here with my mechanical square. I'm going to push it in here up square. Going to mark it right here. I'm going to go ahead and take and make a cut on it. I'll push it in here, just like that. I'm going to take a piece of old HCam. Stick it in here. Make sure it's up against the HCam and the HCam here. I'm going to stick a pin right there to hold it. These here, I'm going to take a piece of HCam, and I'm going to use this area right here to tell me how long to cut this. So I'm going to lay it right in here, and I'm going to cut it right like this. So that'll be the way it's going to work out, because this is going to be finished off with HCam all the way around the outside edge. So we'll cut that. If you want to be sure that's the right size, which that one's a little bit long, it should slip right between those two. So we'll pull that back up and move it down just a little bit. Should fit in there just like that. Going to sit in here like that. I've got another piece I already cut here, so we're going to sit it in here. Okay. Stick in a piece of HCam. And now with this last piece here, we're going to take and put it in here. Whoops, came out here. That's why it's a good idea to use your HCam and hold this so it doesn't come out. Because if it comes out of your HCam here, the next cut you make here is going to be wrong. And if you don't have, in this case, like we don't have a lot of glass to waste because we're right on the edge of the size of this glass. This one here is going to go in here like this. And this HCam is going to go right here. Now, if you look at, I don't know if you can see this real close, but if you look really close, this is a little bit too short because I want this to be right lined up perfectly with that. So we'll cut another piece to go in here. We'll use this one over here somewhere. So we're going to take our piece right here and we're going to put it in here right like this. And I'm actually going to push this one up really close to it here. And I'm going to use this now as my guide so that I'll be right where we want it, right? Otherwise, we want to run this right there. The only reason this is critical is this makes a difference between an okay job and a really nice job if you make these corners nice and square. If you're ever looking at projects and check out those kinds of areas, the square areas that people have put together, and when they're nice and square there, you'll know that they took the time to make that come out properly. If they're kind of crooked or they make a jog, there's nothing wrong with it other than the fact that you had an opportunity to make it as perfect as possible and you just let it go. So try to make it the best job you can. See, that's what we want right there. Okay, and so we'll put this on here. Now we're not going to put any HCam around here yet until we get ready to do the rest of it. Now what we're going to do here, since that's holding that right there, we'll take that one out of there. And we can come in here on the top now, and that'll work right there. We'll take this one here. We're going to do the same thing. We'll take a piece up here. And the only reason I'm doing that is I don't want this to bow out. I want it to stay in here tight. So I'm putting this in here just like that. And put a piece of HCam on it here to hold it up tight. So we can start right here. And we'll just take this piece right here and we'll stick it in here. Here again, we'll use our HCam. That was going to be a little bit too small. We'll cut a piece to go in here. That one's almost perfect. Put that in here. Take another piece of our glass here. Here again, we're going to take it and slide it into our HCam. I can see right here, I got a little bit of the line sticking out right here. So that gives me where I want to cut that. We'll take it over here on our cutting area. Line up our cutter with the right on the line. Cut it. Take it and snap it. Can take this pin out. Move this one right up against it here. We can take and put another piece of HCam in here. Push that down. Take our HCam here. Here again, we can stick it in here. We can take and use off that HCam as an area where we want to cut it. We take and cut it. Goes right there. And then our last piece here, we'll take and set it in here. And here again, we want this to come right off of the middle here. So we're going to take and we're going to go right here in the center with our pen, and we're going to mark our glass right there. Now remember, on your cutter, remember we talked about this, it adds to it. So when I get ready to put my square down, I want to use my wheel right here, and I'm going to put it right on that little piece, that little mark right there. And over here, you're probably not going to be able to see that. So slide it down, line my cutting wheel up right with my mark. Cut it. This will go right in here. And then we'll cut our HCam to go in there, and it should line up right where we want it. Here again, we can go over here and we can mark this to get a distance on it. After you play with this for a while, you pretty much can almost eyeball that, what the gap is that you want here. Okay, that's what we want right here. See how it come in right there? So we'll take a little piece of HCam and we'll take and hold that one right there. And now we're going to take one of our little 1-inch pieces, and we have to determine which way we want that to run. If we want it to run this way, it would go in here like this. Okay, and so now this is sticking over here, and that's all right. What we're going to do is we're going to, before we put this one in here, we're going to come back in here and we're going to cut this off. And that way it'll finish it up, and we don't have to guess how long to make this. So this will be where our 1-inch squares are going to go in here. And we want to be sure that to hold it in there tight. Okay, so I'm going to come back and I'll finish this off, and then we'll get ready to put the hangers on, and we'll put the final HCam around the outside. All right, we're back. So I went ahead and filled this all back in here now. So we still have these ends that are sticking out here. So we need to trim those off to bring them back to the level here to match up with this cam. So the way we're going to do that, we've got to piece of HCam in here right now, so we'll just use that for a guide, and we'll just mark it right here, and we'll know that's where we want to cut this off right there. So we can do this a couple of ways. One way we're going to just take this square piece out. There's our mark. We could just pull the HCam or the HCam down and trim it, or I prefer to do this. Take this one out of here, and we'll just take our trimmers or our cutting shears, and we'll set them right in here like this, right up against our line, and we'll take the cut off of it here, just like that. Then we can take this and we'll put it right back in. If it fits a little tight, that's good. That's what we want it to look. We want it to barely fit in here. So, of course, it helps if you get it straight. There we go. Okay, and then we're going to take and we're going to put our, here again, we've got this moving up here. This is the pretty side of the glass going down. Going to put it in here like that. And now, we can just run our HCam right across the whole thing, just like that. That's where, because that's where we're going to put our HCam when we come around to finish it. So we'll do that. We'll do one more here, and then I'll go off camera and finish up the rest of them here. So right here, we're going to mark this one, and pull that out. Pull this out. Here again, flat side to flat side. Take and cut that. Take and slide this back in. Put this one back in. Make it nice and straight. Put our HCam in here like that. And we'll pin it. So that took care of those two. So I'm going to go off camera. I'll finish up these two. Then we're going to come back and we're going to put the HCam all the way around it. Okay, so I went ahead and trimmed our other corners off here, and I've got our HCam holding everything together here. You can see that it lines up nice. It gives us a nice corner. So now we need to cut 4 pieces of HCam to go all the way around it. And if you watch some of the other projects, we're going to let these overlap, and then we'll come back and trim them back, and I'll show you how we're going to do that. So I'm going to take a piece of HCam here. We'll cut it straight on the corner. Remember, this is this one here. This is the one that makes the shape of U. We're going to just set it across here, and we're going to make it about maybe 3/8 of an inch too long. So we're going to cut one straight edge to straight edge. Then we'll come back and we'll cut off this pointed edge. And then we're just going to line this one up with that one. And we'll go ahead and cut another one here. Then we'll get some more HCam, and we'll come back and we'll cut the other two. Okay, I'm back. Apologize for that. I thought I had another piece of HCam already stretched out. If you're not familiar with the term stretch, that's where we take the lead and we put it in a vise and we stretch it or pull it out a little bit. It helps to straighten it out, and also helps to make it just a little bit harder. So this is the piece that I just stretched. They come in 6-foot lengths, and if you've watched any of my other videos, we've talked about how to do it. When you do stretch it, the lead vise puts some little marks in the front of it here. So we'll want to take our cutters and we'll cut that off. And now we'll go ahead and we'll cut the other two that we need here. Try to get this in here so you can see what I'm doing. And we're going to cut them flat to flat here again. Okay, so we're going to do just like that. Okay, so we'll push that out of the way. Now what we're going to do, we're going to take and we'll pull out one of these sides here. Move all of our HCam out of here. And we're going to set one in right here. And now we're going to allow for this piece of HCam that's going to come down here. So if you want to just put a little piece in there like that, so you make sure that you got it a nice tight fit right there, you can do that. Now we're going to put a pin. We're going to put it right back on our joint here. I'm going to put one here. I put one here and here. Now this next one we're going to run up here. It's going to take and run into this one here. So I'm kind of just staggering these around the outside edge of this. And what that's going to do is that'll help strengthen our little project. Also, it makes it really easy to finish off. So we're going to take our next one. We're going to set it in here. We're going to bring it up here. Just let it touch right here. Make sure you got nice clean joints here. Put your pins in right next to your joints area here to start with. That'll give you, make a nice push so that you don't have any loose areas in it. Bring it up here and put it in here. Okay, this one here, it's going to come down. It'll extend down to the bottom here. So we'll take all of our little pieces that we've been holding our glass with, take them out of here. And this one here again, this one's going to run all the way down the side here. So we're going to want to be sure that we don't set it up here too high. So just take a piece of your junk HCam, set it in here like that, and then run this one in here right up against it. That way you'll know that that'll be a nice tight fit. Take and push it in. Sometimes if you have one that's coming down just a little bit, you may have a little bit of trouble getting it in here. Just go ahead and work with it until you slide in. There you go. And we'll put one more pin right here. Now you notice I'm using a lot of pins. I like to make it nice and tight all the way around. I don't want to have any bows in my HCam, and I don't want to have any areas that have moved away from our glass. So we don't. So just keep, even though we're using a lot of them, don't worry about that, because the end product will be better if you make sure that it's nice and tight. Now the last piece we're going to put in here comes in here, and it's going to run right into that one, up against it, nice and tight. Here again, we'll put our pins in here, pull it down tight, push it down, and we'll get one more pin, and we'll put it right here at the end. Okay, so now we've wrapped it up. That we made. This is our HCam project, all put together now. Now we talked about we're going to put some hangers on here. This is a little hanger idea that I came up with. A lot of times you'll see projects where they'll take a ring and just solder it onto the edge of the cam and so forth. I lived in an area in Arizona where we had a lot of wind, and I was always afraid that those either might break or come on solder. So I came up with a system, and I'll show you how we're going to do that. So the first thing we need to do to do this system is we need to come in here, and this is why I wanted to put the hangers right at these joints. We're going to take our pin, and we're going to mark right here where this joint's at. And then we're going to mark right here where this joint's at. And then we're going to take this piece back out. And I'm going to turn it on its side, and right where I marked my line on the top there, I'm going to mark it right here. And I'm going to do the same for that one. Now, as long as I don't disturb this area, I don't have to put any pins in here. But if you're concerned, boy, I don't want to hit this and knock it all out of here, just take and put a couple pieces back in here. Just like that. That way I'll be sure to hold it for us. Okay, so now when I'm gonna set up our little drill vise down here. So I'm gonna bring the camera down real close so you can see what we're gonna do with this, because it's a little bit complicated, but it's really quite simple. So we'll be back and get that set up. All right, we're back. So we're gonna go ahead and make our hangers now. And our hangers are gonna be made with these little cotter pins right here. These are a 3/32. They're steel cotter pins. They're zinc coated. They're 1.5 inches long. You can get these online. You can get them at the hardware store. Anyway, they're going to become the basis for our hangers. And the way we're going to do this, I'll show you. First of all, we're going to take our cane, and if you remember, we took and we marked it right here. This is where where we want our hanger to be. So what we're going to do, the first thing we're going to do is we're going to take right here. We're going to take a little block of wood. And I'm going to try to stay out of this with everything, so you can kind of see it. We're going to take a hand drill. It can be electric, or in this case, a battery one. It has a 3/32 drill in it. And we're going to come over here, and we're going to go right on the center of this. And we're going to drill a 3/32 hole right through the back of the cane. So it's going to look like this. It's going to have a hole right here. Then we're going to take one of our cotter pins, this right here, and we're going to insert it in that hole. Okay, you pull it down tight. And then we're going to take it in our drill vise, and we're going to close up on the loop part of it. And we're going to give it a pretty good tug here, because we're going to flatten those edges down, and when we flatten them down, we don't want to push the cotter pin through. The next thing we're going to do, we're going to take this little piece of tubing. This is a piece of brass tubing. You can get it at a hardware store or hobby store. Even Hobby Lobby carries this brass tubing. This is 3/32 across the middle of it here inside. And what we're going to do with that is we're going to take it and we're going to stick it on the leg of the cotter pin. We're going to push it all the way down to the bottom. And then we're going to make it go flat down into the cane. And we're now going to come over on this side. We're going to do the same thing all the way down to the bottom. Okay, so now you notice that the legs, even though we've bent them down to the bottom, they're still sticking up here. So we need to push them down. And you can use a big screwdriver. You can use anything that'll go in the channel here. In my case, I'm going to use a punch. I'm going to take my punch. I'm going to put it right on the leg of the cotter pin, and I'm going to just take and tap it down right like that. You want to be careful when you're doing this, though, because you don't want to slip off. If you're using a screwdriver or something like that and slip off, you'll damage the cane. Okay, so we just want to tap that down flat. Okay, after we got it tapped down flat, we're going to take our flux. We're going to come right inside here. Going to put a little flux right there. Then we're going to take our soldering iron. This is a little bit critical. You can, if you think you might touch the edges of the cane, you might just take your small tool right here, and we'll spread that open right there just a little bit. The advantage of doing that is it gives you a little bit more room, because when you put your soldering down here, if you touch the edge of this, this melts very, very quickly, and you might get a big gap in your cane. So we don't want to do that. So we're going to clean off our soldering iron, and we're just going to take it right like this. I'm going to try to hold it this way so you can see. I'm going to put my solder in here. Put just a little bit of solder on here. Okay, I'm going to go right in the middle here. And I'm just going to let that flow away. Just like that. I'm going to put just a little bit more right here. This doesn't have to be real pretty because it's going to be hidden anyway, but I like to hold it and let it flow in there. Okay, that's good. That's what we want. So now we've got that down. So we take it out of our vise, wipe off the flux on it, and we'll bring it up here and we'll show it to you. This is going to be our hanger right here, and it's going to take a lot of pressure to get that to pull out here. You'd have to pull it through here, which would make these legs have to go straight, and you'd have to pull it all the way out. So, and we're going to solder this right next to where our joint is, so that's going to be an extra strength to it too. So that's how we're going to do that. By doing this, it creates one bit of a problem in the fact that now we've soldered something inside here. So if we just put it in our job just like this into our project, this extra thickness here is going to make this bow out, and our cane will take a curve to it, which we don't want to do. So if you don't have something similar to the thickness of that cotter pin, just take one of your cotter pins and cut some legs off of it. Take a little bit of white glue, put a little dab in here, and just stick it to the U-came here, and up at the top here. Just a little piece, maybe half an inch long, and that'll space that out to match this right here. If you have a grinder, which we have, we're going to take the glass, and on these two parts right here, we're going to take and grind that back. So this shows you how we're going to put that under. I'll go ahead and do the other one, and then when we come back, we'll move the camera back up and we'll get ready to put the unit together, and I'll show you how we're going to grind the glass back, and also we'll go ahead and solder the job up. Okay, so we're back here now. We've put our hanger in here, so we have our loop for our chain right here, and we've soldered the underside of this so it can't get out of there ever. And now what we're going to do is we're going to figure out how we're going to get rid of the area that we've taken up here. And if you have a grinder, like I said in the other video, here's what we're going to do. I'm going to take this pin out here. We're just going to move it forward just a little bit. I would take it out all together. And then I'm just going to take my pin here, and I'm going to come in here, and I'm going to grind out just about 1/16 of an inch right through here. So I'll break away and grind those out, and then we'll come back and we'll put this together and get ready to solder it. Okay, so we've taken and we've ground back our edges here to take and hide our hanger inside here. So we can take our U-came now and we can put it right back in here. So it's going to start, we'll start right down here at the bottom, and we'll just take it and we'll fold it right back in here. And so where the cotter pin now is underneath here where we've ground that out. So that gives us our spacing for our cotter pin, so we don't have to put any shims or anything in here, and that'll keep this still straight. So that takes and pulls that out here. Now we're going to take this one here, and we're going to do the same thing. It's going to go in here. Going to take and put it right here. Get this to lift up here. Got it up out of the track here. Sometimes they're a little bit hard to get back in here, so don't. There you go. So there we got that pulled back in. So we're in good shape right here. These are all going to be okay, so we're fine. So we got everybody all lined up. So now basically we're ready to solder this up. So let me get out a couple things here to solder it up with, and we'll get ready to do it. All right, we're back. We're going to go ahead and get this soldered up now. If you watched any of my earlier videos, you'll notice that I have a small stainless steel brush here. I like to brush all my solder joints, knock off any oxidation that may be on there. I also noticed that when I was putting this U-came around the outside here where our hangers were at, we still had a little bit of a bow to the U-came, which I didn't like. I took a look at what was going on. When I ground this back for the legs of the cotter pin, wasn't quite deep enough, so I just reground those a little bit, so now they're perfectly flat. The only thing you want to watch when you're grinding this back is don't grind it back so far that you go past the U-came here. You got quite a bit of area there to play with, so keep in mind it's that wide, so you can cut that back on your glass about 1/8 of an inch and still be safe. So keep that in mind if you're going to use this type of a hanger. Give that a try. So we'll take our stainless steel brush here, And we're gonna brush all these joints down. We'll move our pins away a little bit out of our joint area so we can get to them and solder them. So we're going to solder all of these, and it doesn't really make too much difference if you know where you start or what you do with it. I do like to kind of move around a little bit. I don't like to get the glass too hot. That's more of a problem if you're doing copper foil, because copper foil has a tendency to get hotter because you're laying a bead of solder all along the copper foil. So go ahead and brush all your joints here. When you move your pins, be sure you keep them pushed up tight. And I'm just moving them away a little bit. I'm not moving them too far, so I keep my project nice and straight. If you miss one of these joints, it probably, because this lead's new, you probably won't have any problems. But if it's an older lead, it's got oxidation on it. When you go to solder it, it's going to kind of repel the solder, and you'll get kind of a gobby looking solder joint. It's kind of lumpy, and it won't be quite as nice a looking job. So keep that in mind as you're going on. Okay, after we do that, we're going to put a flux. I'm using a liquid flux. It's water soluble. I like it. It doesn't smoke. It has no odor to it. But there's all kinds of fluxes on the market. There's pastes and several other different ones. But we're just going to take a small tinning brush here, and we're just going to put our flux on our solder joints. Here again, if you don't get flux on them when you go to solder, the solder just gobs up. It doesn't flow very nice. So get not an over amount, but be sure to have enough on all your joints. And if you watched them on one of my older videos, you can see I actually popped for a new tinning brush here. So the other one was so dirty, I thought maybe I better change it out. All right, we got everybody done there. I'm using a 60-40 solder. I like this one here. It melts at a good temperature, and it works good for leaded glass. The lead, by the way, melts pretty close to the temperature of the solder. So if you're using a 50-50 solder, you're going to have to be a little more careful. It takes a little more heat to melt that, and you're going to be really close to the temperature of the melting of the lead. And so you want to kind of keep that in mind. So we use I'm using a Waller 100-watt soldering iron here. It's this one right here. I like this one because the tip on it regulates the temperature. This is 700-degree tip. You can use a lot of different types of soldering irons. Some use a rheostat, which turns the voltage up and down, which varies the temperature. Those all work fine too. They've been soldering with those for years, so not a big deal. I just like this one because it's not a lot of fussing around with it. Your iron holder here, you should have one with a sponge on it, kind of keep the tip clean. It should look nice and shiny silver like that. And on these little jobs like this, first of all, because the solder comes in a 1-pound roll. So if you're soldering a great big job and you're holding on to this, after a while it gets pretty heavy. So I found I just take some, 10 to 12-inch long strips and cut it. And what I like to do is I like to lay the solder down flat against this. Just tin this just a little bit. And I just like to lay it down here, get on it straight down, and just get away from it. Just like that. Come over here and we'll solder that one right there. Like I say, if you have forgotten to flux one, it'll come back and show you that you didn't do a good job on it. It should flow out. You don't have to move around. Don't move the iron around. This one here didn't quite take, so just come back on it. I found over the years, if you have one that doesn't quite solder, don't fool around it and keep fooling around with it. Walk away from it and then come back a little while after it's cooled off, and your results will be much better. So Here again, just take just the tip of your solder and just melt it right straight off and go straight down on it. We're not going to move it all around. When I go back here, what's happened is the solder we've had a little bit of a gap between the lead and the solder has seeped through it. So I want to go back. I like to have a nice little bead like this on all of them. On the corner ones here, you're going to need a little bit more solder, maybe about 1/8 of an inch. See, that one there didn't take it all. There you go. When you're soldering the outside here, don't linger too long on this HCam because that's a thin area there. And if you linger too long, you can burn a hole in it. So and once you burn a hole in it, it kind of becomes a real mess trying to fix it. Most of the time, you're going to end up taking that piece of lead out and re-leading it. And of course, if you've got a big job and you're all the way done with it, that becomes a real problem. So try not to do that. Like I said, we can just move around here, and there's no rhyme or reason. Where these intersections come, you're going to need, like I say, about 1/8 of an inch of solder. There you go, right like that. Now, even though this is the back side of the project, we want to solder it nice because it's a sun catcher, so you can see it from both sides. Now, I'm going to try to stay out of the picture here, so I'm reaching way over here. You guys don't need to see my head there in the picture. That's not helpful. That one kind of went down just a little bit. I'm going to add just a little bit more to it. There we go. Here again, when I'm doing this just for my own projects, I don't have to reach out like this. I can be over the top of it. I can really see what I'm doing. So, but for our show and tell thing. Now around our hangers here, I'm going to linger just for a minute because I want that to be a really good solder joint because I want that to really hold on to it. Here, we'll do this one again a little. Okay, then after we got it soldered, we're going to take a peek at it. Okay, we got everybody soldered up here. If you miss one, you can go back and fix them up when you're done. If you remember, this is where our lead came together right now. Now you can see by butting it up real tight right here, when we soldered it, no, you can't tell where that's at. So we're going to go off camera here real quick. We're going to pull all these pins out, and I'm going to show you what we're going to do next, because this has this dip on this in this bowl or this dish right here. You can't just turn it over and solder it because our job would take a crown. It'll start to fall down on the edges. So I'm going to show you a little trick here, and it makes it work real easy for you. So we'll pull all these pins out, and then we'll come back and we'll solder the front side. All right, we're back. We got it all kind of cleaned up on that back side. So here's what it looks like. It's kind of got all the flux taken off of it. I haven't really washed it yet, and we've got some other things we're going to do to it. So as you can see, I have a little box right here. I've cut a hole in it. So I can take this, and if we put it the way we had it, I can take this and put it right here. And the hole in the box lets this all sit flat. So we'll just take it, and we'll take our brush. We'll brush our joints real quick. We'll solder this up. I'm going to go offline to solder it. I don't want to get this video to run too long. The soldering, if you're having trouble with it, the only thing I suggest is practice, practice, practice. Take some old came, stick it all together on your work table, and practice soldering it together. So I'll solder this up, we'll come back, and then we're going to finish off the edges, and there's a little trick to that I'll show you. Okay, so we've got the front all soldered up, and we got it cleaned up a little bit. So now we've got these ends sticking out here, and what are we going to do with those? So there's about 3 or 4 options you could do with these. I'll show you the one that I prefer, and you can pick the one that works the best for you. But what we're going to do, we're going to take this. I'll try to I'll try to do this right over the camera so you can see what I'm doing. I'm going to take this leg and I'm going to cut it here about 1/4 of an inch above the came. And then here, I'm going to come in here and I'm going to cut this back to the, and then I'm going to come over on this side. I'm going to cut this out of here like this. It comes to a little point. Just take that out. And that little point right there, I'm going to just take it on my table here and I'm going to push it down. Now what it does is it comes in here and it fills up that hole right there. So what I'm going to do then is I'm going to solder this and I'm going to put it on an 80 grit sandpaper and I'm going to sand that down. And then I'm going to take an emery board, which looks just like this. This is like 80 and 100 grit. And I'm going to chamfer the edges a little bit. So if it's hanging outside and somebody bumps their head on it, they're not going to cut themselves. So this is a little bit sharp right now, but when we solder it over. Some of the options you could do, you could just go ahead and cut these off straight and leave them open. That's not my first choice, but that would work. Or you can cut them off straight and try to solder them, but by bending these back in there, it makes it much easier to solder. So here again, I'm going to do one more and then we'll go offline and do the other two. Cut it 1/4 inch. Come in here, cut it on the crown of both of them. Turn it over. Cut this right here. Right there. Sometimes you have a little bit left right here. Just pick it off. Turn it upside down. And push it shut. So that leaves it a nice closed area there. So I'll do these other two and then we'll come back and we'll show you what we're going to do with them. Okay, we're back. We've got this all the ends cut now. We cut our 1/4 inch long. We've bent them over here. Now we're going to close those up with some solder. And here again, we're going to bring back our drill vise. We're going to set this in here just like this. And we're just going to use it like a third hand. And we're just going to pull it up, not real tight. I'm going to brush that and put some flux on it. Then we're just going to take our solder and we're just going to put some solder right on here. Just like that. Now, you could probably leave it like that. That doesn't look bad, but I'm going to take and sand it down, and I'll show you what it looks like when we get it sanded down. So we got to turn it over here. And here again, we'll just flux it, brush it just a little bit. Put your flux on it. Okay, bring your solder over. Right there. Okay, so that looks pretty nice. So we could go with that and be happy with it, but I'm going to show you what I'm going to do with it. So I'll move offline just a minute. I'm going to put this on 80 grit sandpaper, just run it back and forth. And if you decide to do that, remember this is lead. It's when you move it back and forth on the sandpaper, it gets hot really quick. So don't be hanging on to it and burn your fingers. So I'll be back and then we'll show you how we're going to chamfer this. We'll wash it all up, put a chain on it, and we're done. Okay, so we got all the soldered corners now all sanded down. Here's what they look like. So you can kind of look, pull it down here, knock it down. Now when you do that, that makes these kind of sharp. So what we're going to do, we're going to take our little emery board right here and we're just going to use it like a file. And we're just going to take and we're going to knock the sharp edges off of it, just like that. Now the little shiny edges here where the sandpaper was at, hang it outside for about a week and those will be gone because the lead will start to oxidize and it'll all start to turn more of a gray look to it. So don't be concerned. You go like, oh my goodness, I scratched up my cane. So you won't be in trouble with that. So we're just going to go ahead and chamfer all these little edges down. Just enough, not a whole lot, just enough to kind of clean it all up. Now you could use a file, you could use just a piece of sandpaper, everything. Just happen to have a lot of these emery boards around and they work just perfect. All right, this gives your product a nice finished look to it. So we'll get this up real close here and you can take a look at it. So anyway, this is what the finished piece looks right there in the corner. So you notice how nice the hanger looks here. It's not all gobbed up with solder and so forth. So they'll look really nice when it's all done and hanging. So anyway, we're going to go offline. We're going to wash this up. I just wash it up in regular dishwasher soap, about 3 or 4 drops in a bucket of water. We're from there. This little thing you see right here, if you have some of those, sometimes you can put your finger in here and just pick those off. If you can't get them to pick off, take your dikes or your shears and just take and put them in here, and you can just take and wipe that off. All right, so I'll be back. We're going to wash it up and then we're going to put a chain on it and then the project's going to be done. Okay, we're back. This is what we started with and here's what we ended up with. So you can see that it came out very nice, and so we're ready to put a chain on it and we're going to be able to hang it and we'll be done with it. The chain I'm using a split ring here. It's 3/4 inches across in here. The reason for that is that people like to hang these on shepherd hooks and so forth, and that works out good on that. The chain itself is made by a company called Campbell. It's called Jack Chain. This happens to be a number 16. It's a open loop chain, so you can take your ends of it and you can just take your pair of long nose pliers and you can open up a loop in the end of it here. So what we're going to do with that is we're going to take the loop and we're just going to put it through our hanger. Let's bring this up so you can see it here and I'll get out of the way. So we're going to put this right here and we're going to take a pair of long nose pliers and we're not going to crush this. We're just going to close it up nice and gently, just like that, so it closes back up to where it was. And then we're going to come over it on the other side here and we're going to take the same thing and we're going to do the same thing. We're going to take our open loop, which is right here. I'm going to hold it right here and we're going to put it in here, pull it up, take a pliers again, gently close it up just to make a loop like that, and there we are. So we're ready to go out and we'll hang that and we'll see how it looks on the outside. So hope you've enjoyed the video and I hope you'll give it a try. Again, these plates are from antique stores. They're from the Depression era. There's hundreds of them, all different colors. Here's a green one right here. This one right here is it's a little bit deep dish, but it will work as long as you can get your came around the edge. Watch the edges when you do buy these, that they're not too thick so that you can't get your came to wrap around them. But this one here would wrap fine. It's you would just catch it on the edge like this and just wrap it like this. And then when it comes out, it would look like that. So if you look here real close, you can't see where we put our joint. And when it was upside down, it was over here, but here's where actually it is now. So anyway, I hope you enjoyed the video and give it a whirl and see what you come up with. So until we do the next one, thanks for watching. Our finished product came out very nice. I'm real happy with it. So you can hang it out in the patio or on a shepherd's hook and enjoy it. So thanks for watching, and we'll see you on the next video.